where it's going. Good Yom Tov, Chag Sameach, Happy Passover. Anything but Shabbat Shalom works tonight. Every family has its own traditions for Passover, and that's the way it should be. We here at Temple Beth Am have our own tradition. Before we begin anything, we are going to drink horseradish vodka. Most vodkas are not kosher for Passover because they're made of grain, but our vodkas are. We have either potato vodka or corn vodka. So if you have this drink, please raise your little cups. No blessing. Let's drink it and say, L'chaim. Whew.
הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, ידעי ידעי ידעי. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, ידעי ידעי ידעי. ידעי ידעי הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
This Seder is a little bit different. I just went over all the first pages of the Israeli papers, and they all have a very similar headline. You know, Passover is also known in Hebrew as Chag HaCherut, the festival of freedom, or the festival of liberty. And almost all the headlines in the Israeli papers are the festival of non-freedom, or the festival of captivities, as we cannot ignore the fact that 133 of our people are held captive somewhere in Gaza. When a person dies, especially a young person, sometimes what the family does is lighting, at least for the first year, a third candle for Shabbat. And some of them continue to do it. So we decided tonight, as we light the candles, to add another candle for those who cannot be free this Passover.
We invite one person from your table to light candles as well. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Shel Yom Tov. And there is a beautiful tradition that before special holidays, some people do it before Shabbat every Friday night, parents have the opportunity to bless their children. If you have children here, even if your children are much older, why don't you place your hands on your children's, grandchildren's heads? And the way that I like to do it is first just close your eyes and bless them with whatever blessing you find in your heart. And we continue with the traditional blessing from the Torah. Yevachecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and protect you. Yair Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. May God's light shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May you always know that God is with you. And may God bless you with shalom, with wholeness and peace. As we all say, Amen. And don't forget the Passover kiss. Mwah! 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 And now I'm trying to do the math. When would be the next time that I'll have my 3 children with me for Passover as they get older? I don't know. Hopefully, one day. Seder. Do you know what the word Seder means in Hebrew?
order. Okay? We, the Jewish people, are not known as the most organized people, but when it comes to the Seder, we try to do everything in a certain order. And for us not to mess up the order, the rabbis gave us a way to begin with the 15 steps of the night. Most of these steps are super short, so don't get too worried about it. And to review them, we have a song of the steps of the Seder.
Kadesh Urchatz, Karpas Yachatz, Magi Rachatza, Motzi Matzah, Maror Korech, Shulchan Orech, Tzafun Barech, Hallel Nirtzah.
So the first word in the order is Kadesh, from the word Kiddush. What do we do for the Kiddush? We drink wine. And tonight we're going to do it 4 times. There are 4 cups of wine. Now the tradition is for us not to pour the wine for ourselves, but to pour for somebody else. Marcy, would you, since...
Be my pleasure.
So pour some wine. Now the system is that we kept the white wine on that table over there because we wanted to keep it cold. On that table we have a lot of white wine. We have some more wine, so when you're done, just grab another bottle. Now we all know the Haggadah. How many of you grew up using the Maxwell Haggadah? Thinking that it was given to Moses on Mount Sinai and that's the only thing that is permitted to be used, right? Wrong. Haggadah is not a prayer book. There is no reason whatsoever to read the Haggadah from beginning to end. Haggadah was meant as a collection of materials that the ancient rabbis just gave people. He said, when you do your Seder and you need some references, you need some quotes from the Bible or other places, you may use that. But still, many people are lazy and like to have the Haggadah that is already printed and read it from beginning to end. But there was one group in Israel that never liked the idea of the regular Haggadah, and these were the kibbutzim. And the kibbutzim had a tradition to write their own Haggadah. They liked the concept of Passover, but they refused to just read the ancient readings. Tonight we're going to read before our first cup of wine a beautiful reading that was written in the Haggadah of Kibbutz Nir Etzion. This is one of the kibbutzim that was attacked on October 7th. And Avner, the author of this beautiful piece, as well as his wife, did not survive the attack. So in their memory and the memory of all the victims, we're going to read it together. Now he wrote it about the people of Israel, how diverse they are, and I believe that it's also true for us. We all come from different places, different traditions, different countries, languages, religions, but all of us are here today celebrating together. So let's read it together. Look at the fruit salad. Some fruits are sour and some fruits sweet. Some are more juicy, some harder to eat. Some are more smooth, some rougher skin treats. Each fruit brings its own taste and colors and texture, and when all mixed together, they create something new, far more than just each fruit alone. So too with us, we're made up of all kinds. Some work the land, some look to heaven for signs. Some of us are visionaries, some more practical types. We come in all sizes, all shapes, and all stripes. Some set out on new paths, some settle rather than roam. And each brings their own language, customs, and beliefs from home. We are an ingathering, a kibbutz, gathering of people, multicultural nation. An immense, breathing, and living creation, renewing itself with so much innovation. We lift up a glass to all who return to our land, to the ingathering of exiles, to immigration, to integrations, both present and past. We lift up a glass.
I invite you to rise if you're able for Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol am, veromemanu mikol ashon, v'kidshanu b'mitzvotav. V'titen lanu Adonai Eloheinu be'ahava, moadim lesimcha, chagim uzmanim lesason. Et yom chag hamatzot hazeh, zman cherutenu, mikra kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim. Kivanu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim. Umoadei kodshecha besimcha uv'sason hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh Yisrael ve'hazmanim. L'chaim. You may be seated.
L'chaim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו בזמן הזה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו בזמן הזה.
The most common number in the Agada is 4, right? 4 cups of wine, 4 children, 4 signs of redemption, 4 questions. So how many times are we washing our hands? Twice. It cannot be easy, come on. We're going to wash it twice. First time without a blessing. But the second time that when we wash our hands with a blessing, you'll know that we're about 6.5 minutes from eating. Okay? Why are we doing it? Because a lot of the things we do during the Seder are in commemoration of the times of the ancient temple in Jerusalem. And the priests who served at the temple before they started to do what they were supposed to do, wash their hands. So, as in many Sephardic communities, not everyone washes their hands, only one person on behalf of them all. So I'll have the honor to get wet on your behalf. And, wow, feel much more cleansed. And now the Seder plate. You all have some Seder plates here, right? It's one of the most confusing items of the Seder for a good reason. Because in the past 2,000 years, different communities had different components on the Seder plate. So on the screen we have the one that I have here. The important components are, let's start with the horseradish, the bitter herb. We eat bitter food to remember the bitterness, the pain of our ancestors in Egypt, the pain of slavery and oppression. We have the green vegetable. There are many different options for that. Passover is the beginning of spring. Yeah, actually today it felt like sort of spring, right? So we have the green stuff. We have the charoset. We'll talk more about charoset later on. But charoset looks a little bit like mud that our ancestors used to build the different structures. That's how they put the bricks together. Brick, some stuff in between that they said looks like charoset. The two things here are the egg and the shank bone. At the ancient temple, they used to have two sacrifices for Passover. One of them, we have the bone, the other one, the egg. And on Friday night, I told the people who came that there were communities some about 1,000 years ago who added a fish to the plate. And why a fish? Because the way they interpreted the bone, the egg, and the fish was in commemoration of the three leaders of the Jewish people of ancient times. Moses, we all know Moses, right? Moses is the egg. His brother Aaron is the shank bone. And the fish is for Miriam. So today when people hear Miriam, they think that this is a new feminist. No, the tradition actually started 1,000 years ago to give credit to the many women who were so instrumental in the liberation of the Jewish people. So this is our Seder plate. And the next thing we continue with is the karpas, the green leaf that we have. What is the karpas that we have today? Parsley. So some of you know, and we even have some students of the One School, and it's a wonderful preschool, but we also make the little kids work so hard during the year to grow parsley for Passover. So the pictures you saw are actually what they grow for Passover, and at least I have the real thing. Many of you have the real parsley from the garden of the One School, and we have Mike and Paula here who really work so hard for us to have parsley and for the kids to have a full experience of greens and different vegetables. So if you would take a piece of a green leaf, and we're going to say the blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri ha'adama.
And before you eat it, dip it in your salt water. You have these little things. I don't have, so I'll just dip it in the horseradish vodka. I think it's the same. No, actually, it's much better.
It's the same.
L'chaim. Oh. Now, some people think that Passover is sort of a torture in which we are talking as we are waiting for the food. But many communities, and ours is one of them, once we say the blessing from the green vegetable, we eat other stuff that we have on the table. I think we have some chopped liver, which is a tradition, salad, and whatever else you want. So if you want to gnash a little bit. Our program, by the way, lasts 65 minutes. Okay, so you're not captives here for much longer. And as you take some food, I want you to think back about some Seders that you attended in the past. And focus specifically on a story that was either weird, funny, embarrassing, and if you don't mind to share it. Almost 50 years ago, when I was really young, my father served in the Israeli military, and he served in Sinai. It was before Israel returned the Sinai Peninsula to Egypt. So my father flew the entire family to Sinai to celebrate Passover. And when we were done with the Seder, the first thing they had was matzah ball soup, right? And we tasted it, and it was the most disgusting thing ever, because the cook put sugar instead of salt. But that was not all of it. Some of the soldiers there were Sephardic, and Sephardic Jews normally don't eat matzah ball soup. So they made fun of all the Ashkenazi people who eat everything so sweet. Even their matzah ball soup, they put sugar instead of salt. So that's my little story. Please take a minute or so to share yours.
And if you are sitting with people you don't know, please take the moment also to introduce yourselves and share maybe where you're from.
I hope that you heard some funny, on the verge of embarrassing stories. Maybe later as we eat, you want to share with the rest of the class. We're about to continue with the main part of the Seder, the telling of the story of the Exodus of Passover. And when you think about it, it's quite an unusual way to start. Because what we do, we begin by talking about the matzah. And we say, this is the matzah. And how do we call the matzah? Our bread of affliction, our bread of poverty. And anyone who wants to join us for dinner, welcome. It's quite not an appropriate way to invite people to eat with you. If you really want people to come and join you at dinner, you say, wow, I have some wonderful roast. I bought some exquisite wine. But you don't tell them I have a bread of poverty, just share it with me. Another interesting thing about it is that in the beginning, it's called the bread of poverty, lachmana in Anya, but at the end refer to the matzah as bread of freedom. And Rabbi Jonathan Sachs tells a beautiful story that explains why. He learned it from the Italian writer Primo Levi, who survived Auschwitz. And Primo Levi says that the toughest times in Auschwitz were the 10 days between the time in which the Germans left and the Russians took over. Because for 10 days, they had absolutely nothing. When the Nazis were there, at least they got some food, but then the Nazis just left. And for 10 days, they had nothing. And he tells a story that one day he was digging in the ground, hoping to find some roots, something, because they were all famished. And then a person called him and said, come over here. I have some food to share with you. And he said, that's for the first time I understood what freedom is. It's not what you eat, it's not what you have, but it's the ability, the freedom to share it with others. Because when the Nazis were there, you couldn't share your food with anyone. You would die had you done it. But when the Nazis left, even the most meager food, you could share. So this bread of poverty, this matzah, this boring, tasteless cracker, when shared with other, becomes the bread of freedom. I find it to be a beautiful explanation. So we have here 3 matzahs. We take the middle one and we break it in half. Now, if I can tell you one thing about a matzah, you can never break a matzah into 2 equal parts. I don't know why, but it's impossible. So I would like to invite someone from each table to take a matzah and break it the best way you can into 2 parts. Whoop. The small part goes back into the... Oh yes, some of you have more than 3. We're not good counters at Temple Betham. So, some of the small part goes back to the matzah pile, and the big one is going to the afikoman. You see our kids yesterday at religious school made some special afikoman bags. They didn't share anyone with me, so I have this thing, and we will hide it later on for the kids to find. Sorry? No, we do it on your behalf. We don't want it to buy. No. Actually, Marcy worked very hard to. She's going outside later on to hide all the afikomans. Oh, we forgot the... And as we sing the song, remember that I told you that we're going to follow some traditions from around the world? This is an Iraqi one. If you are brave enough, you may take the Passover plate, okay?
Only one person.
Only one person. And we walk, as we sing this song, we walk around and we sort of place it on top of every person's head. Very carefully, it's better if it doesn't touch. Oops!
Halach ma'an yadi achalu avatana be'ara be'ara demitzrayim be'ara be'ara demitzrayim
So let's read it. This is the flat, plain bread that our ancestors ate when they were slaves in the land of Egypt.
Remembering the poor food of slaves, tonight we welcome anyone who is hungry to come and eat with the Passover meal with us. Now we are here. Next year we hope to be in the land of Israel. Now we are slaves. Next year may we all be free.
Amen. How many questions are we asking during the Seder? 4. The truth is that when you learn how this tradition developed, it started with 3 and ended with 5. But once they printed the Agada, they printed the version with the 4 questions, and that's what we are doing. Yeah, the Mishnah has only 3, and not all of them are the same as our questions. It was only an example of questions that people should ask should their kids are not interested enough to come up with some original questions. So that's the idea.
Do we have any children here that would like to help us come lead the 4 questions? Traditionally, it's the youngest child. But if there are children, brave children who I know the 4 questions because we worked on it yesterday.
Hey, Noah.
Yay, Noah. I have a microphone on this side.
Let's walk. Let's stand next to Cantor Morrissey.
Go together.
No, Noah. You're definitely the youngest.
We'll sing them all together. Anybody else? Last try? For anyone?
Don't be shy. I know you. You're not
Both
shy.
of you come together.
You don't have to know all the words. You're singing with Cantor Marcy. It's an honor to sing with Cantor Marcy. If you can just go, stand.
You want to stand on this side next to the microphone? Yeah. You don't have to be the youngest child to help me lead it tonight. That's just tradition. Sometimes we go against tradition. Oh, there you are. All right, here we go. Are you ready? מה נשתנה הלילה הזה מכל הלילות, מכל הלילות, שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים חמץ ומצה, חמץ ומצה. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, כולו מצה. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, כולו מצה. שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים שאר ירקות, שאר ירקות. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, מרור, מרור. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, מרור, מרור. שבכל הלילות אין אנו מטבילים אפילו פעם אחת, אפילו פעם אחת. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, שתי פעמים. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, שתי פעמים. שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים בין יושבינו ובין מסובים, בין יושבינו ובין מסובים. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, כולנו מסובים. הלילה הזה, הלילה הזה, כולנו מסובים.
Thank you.
The brave volunteers, the brave children.
So the ancient rabbis some 2,000 years ago figured out that no matter how parents try to educate and raise their children, they all end up different. Is that right? Those of you who have more than one child, they're all different. They all have different personality, different attitudes, different ways of learning. So they came up with 4 types of children. One is, they called this child the wise child. Can we see the wise child? One who says, what is the meaning of the rules, laws, and practices which God has commanded us to observe? So this child basically says, teach me how to do it and I'll do it. But then they had another one, the wicked one they called him, who asked, what is the meaning of this service to you? Which I have a problem with calling this child the wicked one, because this is basically the best question of the night. The wise child asking how to do it. It's very easy to learn how to do things. You Google it and you learn how to do it. It's easy. But the why, finding the meaning, why did I have to schlep down here and sitting through this Seder and eating this food that, I had better than that? What is the meaning of it? But the rabbis didn't like this child. They called him wicked, rebellious. But I really believe that this is the most important child. He's still here, but he wants to understand what is the meaning behind what we're doing. And then they have the third child, the simple one, who asks, what is it? Now, the word in Hebrew of a simple is tam. Tam can really mean simple, not very smart, but it also means a person who wonders, a person who is at awe when he or she sees interesting things. That person wants to understand better. So look at everything here and said, wow, I want to understand. And then the fourth one, the one who doesn't know how to ask. And Rabbi Schulweis, of blessed memory, said something that I think all of us know. He said, what Jewish child or person doesn't know how to ask a question? That's what he said, at least the child would ask, when are we eating? And he said something really beautiful. He said that the fourth child, the one who doesn't know how to ask, is last year's wicked child. Because when that child asked, what's the meaning of what we're doing here? They started yelling at him, shut up, just do what we're telling you to do. What happens the following year? He shuts up, keeps his mouth shut, and doesn't ask anything. And Rabbi Yitz Greenberg wrote a beautiful article that is very sad. Said the problem with our generation is not these 4 children. They all show up. It's the 5th child. It's the 5th child who doesn't even bother to come. Just, they don't care enough. They take themselves out of our community, out of our people, and stay out. So no matter what attitude you have, as long as you show up, we welcome you, we love you. And those who don't show up, well, we should try again next year. Oh, so there are beautiful images throughout the years of these 4 children. So this is more traditional one. You see the wise one. You can analyze it easily. And then we have every year many new ones, if we can. So this is from, you can tell who is who. It seems like that's a must-see for everyone. And this is from this year. Do ponder on this one. Okay, we like that. Shows you how mature we are or sometimes we sample too much of the 4 cups when we prepare for the Seder.
want to sing?
No.
Look who it's Cantor Norman from Miami. Do you want to sing with us now?
Talking about perfect timing.
It's the time.
Can we offer you a glass of wine before you start?
Maybe just a microphone. I'll share my.
Wow.
We're so happy to have you here, Cantor Norman from Temple Sinai in Miami, who will join me in a beautiful song. What a good time.
Do you want a little wine before? Just a little sip?
I'm okay.
You're okay for now?
בכל דור ודור חייב האדם לראות את עצמו כאילו הוא יצא ממצרים.
בכל דור ודור חייב האדם לראות את עצמו כאילו הוא יצא ממצרים, יצא ממצרים, יצא ממצרים, יצא ממצרים.
בכל דור ודור חייב האדם לראות את עצמו כאילו הוא יצא ממצרים, יצא ממצרים, יצא ממצרים, יצא ממצרים. Can you picture yourself crossing through and wandering the desert?
Can you feel the wind support you as you go?
Do you hear the cries of those left behind, still hoping for tomorrow? Do you feel the mountains you still have to climb? בכל דור ודור חייב האדם לראות את עצמו כאילו הוא יצא ממצרים. בכל דור ודור חייב האדם לראות את עצמו כאילו הוא יצא ממצרים. Thank you.
Thank you. Talking about the perfect timing. Welcome. Welcome, Baruch haba. But the main purpose of the Seder is really to tell the story of the Exodus from Egypt. The beautiful song that Cantor Marcy and Cantor Norman Korn just sang for us means in each generation, each one of us has to feel like we personally experience the oppression, slavery, captivity in Egypt. This year, it's really easy to do. So let me tell you quickly the story of the Exodus. So the Torah has 5 books: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Where do you think we find the story of the Exodus? Which book? Mostly the book of Exodus. But if you really want to understand the story, you start in the book of Genesis. Now, this story is so important, not because it tells us about some historical event that took place,
but because, unfortunately, it became the prototype of the experience of hundreds of Jewish communities around the world in the past 3,200 years. So let me tell you the story from the fourth part of the book of Genesis. That's when it starts. Once upon a time, there was a really wonderful family, a large one. The patriarch was Jacob. Jacob had another name. What was it? Israel. And Jacob, or Israel, had 12 children, 12 sons, and each one of them had their own children, and it became the people of Israel, or as we know them today, the Jewish people. One of them ended up in Egypt, and because he was so smart, and he really understood finances, he made the Pharaoh, who was so rich, he made him into a multi-billionaire. The Pharaoh loved Joseph and made him in charge of all the food distribution of Egypt, one of the highest ranked people there. While Joseph was in Egypt, things in Canaan, which today is called Israel, were not good. No food, it was really bad. So the family of Jacob, of Israel, moved from Canaan to Egypt. And because Joseph was such an important man, the life of the Jews in Egypt was really good. The Pharaoh gave them their own land, the land of Goshen. They prospered, they multiplied. Life was good for hundreds of years. That's the end of Genesis. Ready for Exodus? However, that's how Exodus begins. One day, a new Pharaoh. The Torah doesn't even give us the name of the Pharaoh, just Pharaoh, which means a ruler, a king. Some people think it's Ramses II. Some scholars say it was Merneptah, his son, doesn't matter. But the Torah looks at it as a prototype of a story. Just the Pharaoh decided he doesn't like the Jews anymore. And he convinces people that these Jews who have been in Egypt for hundreds of years, well-respected people, contributed a lot to Egypt, to the culture, to the economy, are no longer welcome there, and they're a potential enemy. And it's time to get rid of them. So his first idea was, he went to the main midwives, Shifra and Pua, and told them, when you help a Jewish woman giving birth, if it's a boy, don't send him home. Put him on the Nile. We don't need these Jewish baby boys. However, Shifra and Pua were midwives. They were nurses. They were compassionate people. Their business was saving lives, not ending lives, and they refused to do it. So the Pharaoh chose a different method, enslaving the Jews, thinking that people who work physically hard all day don't have the energy to make babies. He was wrong too, but that's a different story. But during the time of the first decree of killing the Jewish babies, the baby boys, a woman by the name of Yocheved gave birth to a baby. She didn't even name the baby because she was so afraid. She didn't know if this baby would survive. She hid it for a few months, but you know, babies, when they get older, they make a lot of noise. And when it was no longer safe to keep the baby, she took a big basket. These are our babies, or beautiful kids from the one school. We played with the baskets. And put the basket on the Nile. In other words, saying to God, I did everything I could. Now, God, this baby is in your hands. By the way, this is a beautiful thing that we miss in English. The word for a basket, it's not a basket, it's teiva. The same word that we use in the story of Noah and the ark. In Noah's story, it's not a boat. It's just a box. It's when we just take something, a box or a basket, put it on water and tell God, God, please, do the right thing. And that's what she did. The daughter of the Pharaoh found this baby, took him out and called him Moses, and raised him not as a baby slave, but as Disney would call him 3,200 years later,
the prince of Egypt. And Moses grew up in the palace, but one day, as it appears in so many stories, he wanted to know how the other half lives. So he left the palace and saw an Egyptian taskmaster beating a Jewish slave. And Moses was not known for his mild temper. He killed the Egyptian. The next day, when he figured out that everyone knew what he did, and in ancient Egypt, killing a taskmaster was a capital offense, he had to flee. He ran away from Egypt, went to the desert, and ended up marrying the beautiful daughter of a Midianite priest. I don't know if you ever met a Midianite priest or any of their daughters. No, they do not exist anymore. And his job now, from the prince of Egypt to a lowly shepherd. But Moses didn't mind. He liked to walk with the sheep and the goats. And one day, as he was walking in the desert, he saw a bush on fire. Now, it's not such a rare occasion in the desert to see a burning bush. But Moses, who was a shepherd, was not in a hurry, took his time and just appreciated what he was looking at. But after a while, probably an hour or so, realized that nothing is changing. The bush remains the same. It's not consumed. And as he was appreciating this unusual sight, he heard the voice, "Moses, Moses." No, really, that's what he heard. "Take off your shoes, because the ground upon which you stand is a holy ground." And Moses freaked out, took off his shoes, and said, "Who is this voice?" And said, "I'm Yahweh, the God of the Jews, and I appoint you as their leader. I want you to go to the Pharaoh and free them." And Moses said, "I don't want to do it. With all the respect, God, I really appreciate the confidence you have in me, but I don't want to do it." But Moses learned, as many people after him, like...
Not alone. Let me take it from here.
Oh, that's not fair.
Tonight my back aching, it's aching. Tonight I cry in pain and misery. Will we be leaving Mitzrayim? I need to know if your love is the love I can be sure of. Can I believe my people will be free? Will we be leaving Mitzrayim? Tonight some guy named Moses tells us that you're the only one. He says when this night closes, we'll be free in the morning sun. Is Moses just a schemer? Is he some foolish dreamer? So tell me now, and I won't ask again. Will we be leaving Mitzrayim? It's time to dance. Are you ready? Oh, who's gonna join me? Thank you. So tell me now, and I won't ask again. This is great. Will we be leaving Mitzrayim? You can sing it with me. Will we be leaving Mitzrayim?
will we be leaving Mitzrayim? Last time, girls. Will we be leaving Mitzrayim? Thank you so much. Thank you, girls.
Thank you. That's the spirit. And that's after only one glass of wine. We have 3 more to go. After that, the next song is that we have to. It's in the Torah. Are you having some helpers? Helpers.
I'm
Don't
looking
bail
for a
on
Yoni and a Ben. When Israel was in Egypt's land,
My people go.
oppressed so hard they could not stand. Let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt's land. Tell old Pharaoh,
let my people go.
so Moses went to Egypt's land.
My people go.
And to make old Pharaoh understand, tell him what happened. Go down, Moses, way
Down in Egypt's land, tell old Pharaoh.
Let my people go.
Thus said the Lord, bold Moses said, let my people go. If not, I'll strike your firstborn dead.
Let my people go.
Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt's land. Tell old Pharaoh, as Israel stood by the waterside, at God's command it did divide. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt's land. Tell old Pharaoh, here we go. When they had reached the other shore, then they sang the song of triumph. Oh, go down, Moses, way down in Egypt's land. Tell old Pharaoh,
Let my people
thank you, Ben. Thank you, Yoni.
Okay, we continue with the 10 plagues. So Moses went to the Pharaoh and said, let my people go. The Pharaoh said no, and Moses inflicted Egypt with a plague, and another plague, and another plague. And we're going to read all the plagues, but first for some traditions. I don't know about you, I'm almost done with my first. It's no time for the second, but I need it for that. The tradition is, when we read the name of the plague, we took a finger, put it in the wine, and then we put the wine on our plate. Okay? Why are we doing such a weird thing? I have to read for you a document, a line from a document that I found from about 1100 years ago
when they explain why we dip our finger in the wine and then spill it. Pay attention. I read it as it actually, it was not written in English, but I will use. Just as they were accustomed to spit upon hearing the names of the plagues, now we dip our finger in the wine and spill it. So before we do it, people used to do blood too, tzfardea too. So they upgraded it, made it a little bit nicer, instead of public spitting, which is probably not the most hygienic and nice thing, to use finger inside of the wine, which I'm sure it's much more cultured and healthy thing to do. Now, which finger you use? You're all right, because I read, I believe, all the documents about it. And one explains the virtue of the pinky. One explains the virtue of the ring finger. One explains the virtue of the index finger. No one advocates for the middle one. I swear. So choose your favorite finger. And each time that we say the name of the plague, in the wine and on the plate. Okay, ready? I grew up with a pinky, so I'll stay with it. Dam, blood. Tzfardea, frogs. Kinim, lice. Arov, wild animals. Dever, livestock, disease. Shchin, boils. Barad, hail. Arbe, locust. Choshech, darkness. Makat bechorot, death of the firstborn. How many of you growing up placed the finger on the actual Haggadah? That's what we did, and they found it's an old tradition of having these stained Haggadahs. So we did that, and what comes next? Dayenu. Dayenu is probably the most favorite song for Passover, but it's more than 1,000 years old. And it has traditionally 5 stanzas. We do only a few of them here. And it basically tells God, if only you release us from slavery in Egypt, it would have been enough. But you were so nice, God, and you did more for us. But when you think about it, I think that we were not serious about it. Because we didn't only want freedom from Egypt, we wanted everything. And let's see what we need this year more than anything else.
Die, die, no, die, die. We forgot about the scallions.
Sorry?
We have the scallions? Oh, you've got your scallions.
That's for the last one, but since you mentioned, so tell them what to do. Because we talked about highly cultured people here.
If you would like to use it to hit your neighbors around you, we use it like the whips of the Egyptian slaves. We hit each other with scallions.
This is not a Temple Betham thing. That has been around for thousands of years.
During the chorus.
I believe this is an Iranian one, and when we think about what the Iranians did last Saturday, it does make sense. But no politics tonight, I guess.
Die, die, no, die, die, no,
die, die, no, die, no, die, no, die, no, die, die, no, die, die, no, die, die, no, die, no, die, no.
Ilu hoti hoti anu mi mitzrayim hoti anu mi mitzrayim dayenu. Die, dayenu, die, dayenu, die, dayenu, 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 die, dayenu, die, dayenu, die, dayenu, dayenu, dayenu. Ilu natan lanu et Torah natan lanu et Torah dayenu. Die, dayenu, die, dayenu, die, dayenu, 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 Dai Dayenu, Dai Dayenu, Dai Dayenu, Dayenu, Dayenu. Ilu Natan Natan Lanu et Shabbat Natan Lanu et Shabbat Dayenu, Dai Dayenu, Dai Dayenu, Dai Dayenu, Dayenu, Dayenu. One more time.
Dai Dayenu, Dai Dayenu, Dai Dayenu,
Dayenu, Dayenu.
So we looked at the list of the people who came to our Seder last year. No one returned. And now you understand why. It's a once in a lifetime experience. So it was nice, but not for us. Well, but that's who we are. Okay, so the most important thing for the Seder, we have to write things here, is to talk about the important things. This is maror, the bitter herb, the horseradish, and we have horseradish. We have the matzah, right? And we have the maror, the bitter herb. We have the different matzah. Let's go for the second cup of wine. Okay, let's refill. You're still with the white.
I didn't get very far here.
I think I've done it too many times already.
We raise our glasses. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Borei peri hagafen.
L'chaim. By the way, there are some Sephardic communities who do not say the blessing for each cup, only the first and the last. But we bless each cup of wine here. So we did that, and we did that, Kiddush. Okay, we're washing the hands again, which is a sign that we're about to eat, but this time is with a blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim.
And now, with my hands even cleaner than before, we are going to take a piece of the maror, which is hard here. We have you can definitely use the lettuce as maror, and if you want to dip it in the horseradish, and let's say the blessing for the bitter herb.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Oh, that's not the blessing. Now we're closer, though.
Okay. And before we say hamotzim, Hillel sandwich. We're just about to eat, but I want to teach you something really important. Do you know who invented the sandwich? The Earl of Sandwich. Actually, the fourth Earl of Sandwich. He invented it, or maybe his cook invented it, in the 18th century. And the story in the cookbooks is that he was a huge gambler. And he didn't want to stop playing cards. So his cook came up with a great idea, putting his dinner between two pieces of bread. So about 250 years ago, somebody invented the sandwich. But 1800 years ago, actually 1900 years ago, Hillel, one of the greatest rabbis of the Mishnah, had his own sandwich. He would take two pieces of matzah and put the bitter herb and put the Pesach. Back then he had the actual Paschal lamb, put them together. But recently I learned that what he did was not simply to take two pieces of matzah, because Hillel's matzah was a soft one. It was more like a wrap or something like that. So he took it and put the beef, the lamb,
put the bitter herb, some would say even some charoset, rolled it, and ate it. So if you are inclined to do it, you can make the sandwich yourself, put some bitter herb and some charoset, and the charoset tonight follows what? The Bulgarian tradition?
Yes.
Yes. It's the Bulgarian tradition, heavy on dates, not so much apples as many people like to do it, raisins, a lot of spices, and absolutely a little bit of schnapps. But not a lot, so it's perfectly fine. And now let's do a motzi before we eat. Every day when we eat matzah, we use the same blessing for bread, the motzi lechem minah, but only the night of the Seder we have a special blessing for the matzah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kichanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat matzah.
And this formally signals the end of the talking part and the beginning of the eating part, correct?
Correct.
And we say goodbye to our friends who were brave enough to watch us on live stream. Yes. Do you know the instructions?
I do know the instructions. Happy Passover. There is a sheet with instructions, Jackie.